Ladies and gentlemen, Raiders star wide receiver Davante Adams claps back at the media today during practice, and what he did should give Raiders fans more confidence going into the 2023 season. We're going to break down all the reports, the good, the bad, the ugly, and we're just going to talk about what the reporters said that were there at training camp and discuss how some of the key positions are shaking out. So right off the bat, the secondary is improving for the Raiders, and that makes sense when you're going up against top wide receivers like Davante Adams, like Hunter Renfrow, like Jacoby Myers, and you have Marcus Peters getting some praise from the other cornerback Brandon Facyson at the press conference today, talking about how Peters is a ball hawk, how he's competitive, and it's something that they all want to rally around, and he's helping them all, which is the key aspect as to why Marcus Peters is a great addition to the team. He's able to teach the young guys, and it's still a very young cornerback room. And more reporters from The Athletic were noticing the secondary, saying that they had solid coverage and plenty of plays being made on the ball regardless of who's out there, and they're not making it easy for the offense. And we know Josh Jacobs is saying MIA, is saying deuces, the dude looks like he's holding out, but Jakob Johnson, the fullback, is praising some of the other running backs, in particular Zamir White, who is going into his second year after being a rookie and sitting behind Jacobs last year. If Jacobs is gone, Zamir White will be the power back, and then you have Amir Abdullah as the receiving back, and he made a great catch today from Jimmy Garoppolo. And the reason why running back was a focus is because that is what they attacked at practice today. They attacked the run game, that's what the starters were doing, and they also worked on third downs and 2-minute drills. That is what comprised the majority of practice. And one of the best plays and one of the first sexy plays that happened was a connection from Jimmy Garoppolo to Davante Adams on a long ball. They took advantage of man coverage, and Jimmy Garoppolo was able to find him deep for a touchdown. But we want to break down what happened after this play and why this happened and what happened before this play that caused a crazy Davante Adams reaction. Now, the person who was burned on that deep touchdown play was Brandon Facyson, the cornerback. And prior to that deep touchdown play, we heard reports about how Garoppolo was great on short to intermediate accuracy, but the deep pass seems like it's going to take a minute to come together. And you had Vinny B, even Vinny B of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, who was always supporting genius Josh McDaniels, even he had to admit that it was not a good throwing day for Garoppolo at Raiders camp today. And he said on third down offense, it just looked like a struggle outside of a handful of good throws. People asked Vinny B, was it just Jimmy or good defense? And he said both, and it felt like Jimmy had to force some throws, but precision and rhythm was lacking, which makes sense since Garoppolo hasn't had too much time to practice in terms of OTAs. And Paul Gutierrez of ESPN also backed this up, saying it was not an especially sharp day for the Raiders offense today in general, QB Jimmy Garoppolo in particular. But Mick Lombardi, the offensive coordinator, said it's just practice. And that is why when they connected on that deep touchdown pass that we mentioned earlier, Davante Adams made a gesture to make sure the media wrote that down. So Davante Adams seems kind of heated about all the negative reports coming out of training camp, and it seems like he wanted to call out the media after that deep pass. And Paul Gutierrez said that Garoppolo did have a highlight when connecting to Davante Adams on that deep touchdown pass that we keep mentioning, and that he did stare down the assembled media after crossing the goal line in jest. So it's quite clear that Jimmy Garoppolo did struggle for the majority of day at camp. That's what several reporters are saying, and then they finally connected on that one deep touchdown pass. But just like Paul Gutierrez says, it's a highlight. It was just one highlight, and it seems like Davante Adams knew there were going to be negative stories because they struggled all day for the majority of the day on offense, and he wanted to make sure that the reporters took note of that positive that happened, because there were issues in terms of the deep ball prior to this pass. Jimmy Garoppolo threw his first pick in camp. He was looking for Davante, but then he was double teamed, and then he tried to go on to Hunter Renfrow, and Isaiah Pola-Mao, the former undrafted free agent last year at a USC, was able to make that interception. So there is good news in terms of the defense. The defense is able to hang, able to force some incompletions, able to get a turnover during practice, but at the same time, Jimmy Garoppolo is still struggling with that deep ball. Fortunately for the Raiders, he was able to finally connect with Davante Adams, which means they're making progress throughout practice. I will do that. I will be positive about this. If Davante Adams wants the media to take note, wants the media to emphasize these positives, we will take note. However, we cannot deny some of the reports that are coming. We can't be soft. We can't be fragile and afraid to hear the bad news that's coming out of camp. And the reality of the situation is Jimmy Garoppolo looks better than the backups, looks better than Hoyer and Nathan O'Connell, but still needs to work on that deep ball game. Hopefully they can make strides and progress, but it's definitely not there yet. It is positive to see Davante Adams do this gesture to the media, tell them to write that down, the fact that they connected on that deep ball. It shows that he's trying to buy into the season. It shows that he's trying to pump up and defend Jimmy Garoppolo against all of the critics. And the main reason why I believe Davante Adams is also trying to show his commitment is because there are rumors out there that he could possibly go to the Jets, and it's mainly because Aaron Rodgers took a huge pay cut to get talent traded to him. I mean, he literally said this today that he took a pay cut, a $35 million pay cut, in case they want to use that money to grab somebody who may be available at the trade deadline. Obviously, if the Raiders are in a win now mode, they are going to keep Davante Adams, and Davante Adams is trying to make it clear that he does want to play with the Raiders because he is under contract by the Raiders. So hopefully it becomes much easier to be positive at training camp, where instead of having just one deep pass for a touchdown, we have multiple, and all we hear is that Jimmy Garoppolo is absolutely lighting it up at training camp, especially when the pads go on Tuesday. On Tuesday, pads are going on, full padded practice. We'll see how Jimmy G does and how he connects with some of these star wide receivers. My name is WiFiWillie. Like this video if you have not yet, and subscribe to this channel for more Raiders content. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.